Maybe. I did get some. There's some RSVPs. That doesn't mean anything. They might not be showing up. Maybe. We'll see.
So back to the Conan comics next week.
Well, before I broke up the previous, it was 2 volumes. I broke it up over 3 volumes, so we really did, a portion of every book. So what I'm saying is this book is just the full volume 3. It's pretty long. You do not have to get all the way to the end. Read as much of it as you
Oh,
like
okay.
or as you may. But if you do get to all the end, that's fine too. But it's totally up to you.
So history,
That's yeah.
downloads.
Yeah, don't stress about getting to all the way to the end. But if you do, that's okay. And we'll cover what you manage to cover. It is long. It's a lot of reading. So halfway or
Okay, now this comic seems to be a creation which is adapting Lovecraft's material. Is that these aren't original Lovecraft stories exactly?
to be honest, I wasn't sure myself. I gathered that this was an adaptation of Lovecraft original stories. But yeah, it's hard to tell.
Well, he's in the illustration anyway. He's got a James Bond style hit team swimming along in modern aqua gear,
That's right. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't imagine Lovecraft would have that. For starters, the modern aqua deer only sort of arose around World War II, I think. Uh, I think prior to that, the aquatic diving equipment was like the old huge diver's suit or something pretty primitive.
Yeah, that's right. The adaptation set it in modern day. So that's obviously not original to Lovecraft, but I think that it's a story, Lovecraft story that is an adaptation.
Well, the U-boat commander, which found the lost undersea city, is alive in this one and trying to resurrect the god Dagon.
Yeah, yeah.
I found that this adaptation's easier to follow than Lovecraft himself, I think.
Well, yeah. Roy Thomas certainly is a solid craftsperson, as we have learned by now. Given how much Roy Thomas comics we've read.
There
And
we go.
movies watched for that matter. Yeah,
An aqua team fighting it out, just so James Bond.
that's right. Yeah, it's a little confusing. Yeah, they don't make it explicitly clear how much Thomas invents and how much he's being faithful to Lovecraft. Obviously, this is not faithful to Lovecraft.
it's a bit hard to sort of gauge Lovecraft because in certain ways he seems almost amateurish in his
Yeah.
figurines, and then there's a streak of quality there that others have drawn on. But Lovecraft himself, he sort of picked at his persona. Is that backward? He's just not he's just a guy that seems to have hid away like a ghost all his life, and he just seems to lack the normal sort of perspectives, that more the average person is going to have. He seems to have described his lurid visions in great detail. I haven't really read his works, but
Yeah, that only occasionally through these comics adaptations do we get a hint at what his prose is like because they include it in the adaptation itself. But yes, his prose is known for its florid quality.
well, I checked up the Whisper in Darkness is, of course, a Lovecraft story, and one where they said he was starting to diverge into science fiction because he's following a genre here, and the genre he was most involved in and almost exclusively was the idea of the occults, the idea of selling one's soul to some demon god to possibly gain advantage. So the Faustian tale, which was about a century, one version of the Faustian tale is about a century old at the time, and uh, in between the wars, the old stuff was starting to become a bit old hat. They'd found new things, science fiction.
Right.
Oh, well, the old corpse is hanging up. So in the story, it's about contact with Cthulhu type aliens who can transport people simply with their brains in a canister. One guy's in a canister telling his friend, "Oh, it's brilliant. Just go out and see the universe from the point of view of a canister, I suppose."
Hmm.
Perhaps with Lovecraft, he could have worked on his stories a bit more. I think there's just sometimes a little bit of a lack of polish. They tend to look a little bit absurd at times. As to motivation, that's what I mean about Lovecraft. He doesn't seem to have got out and knocked around a bit. His motivations are pretty primary.
Right.
I suppose people, I think I read, I think it was a Playboy article on types of women, and it seems the different types extend from different periods of growth. Like some women will remain in a childhood phase where they were the treasure of their father or something like that, and are fairly limited in the adult sense. Some women make it to becoming a teenager and not as limited. Some women have reached a point where they can do the wife thing, be a mother and support a family, but that often fails and they end up being single anyway. The other woman type they described was the dyke, the man hater. And these, seem to reflect retardation in growth in a way. I think in the brain somewhere, it's obviously built in. There is the equipment in the brain for an adult person, but Kierkegaard was the one that really was pointing it out that a lot of people remain in the aesthetic stage where they don't want to know too much beyond their own personal desires. They wish to devote themselves to their personal desires, so they miss out on the broader social perspective, because taking adult responsibility is going to detract from one's personal aesthetic relation with the world. So a lot of writers, a lot of artists are people that have remained at the childhood stage. And of course, that enriches their ability to engage in art, because they're not involved in other things. Okay, there's the little brain canister. Got the robed idiots again. Oh, well, there's a monster flying off. Okay, so you got the crew, the ones that are going to hunt down Lovecraft's monsters, who've got it more together than the usual lonely victim. And so they're going to go into the story here, which is connected with what was the story when the character meets the cults in Kingsport. They seem to be demi-human. What was his name? Carter. That was it. Carter. So he became sort of a major Lovecraft character. Ackley lived far away from the nearest town, and there had been frequent attempts to molest him due to his isolation. Ackley had taken to patrolling the grounds outside his farm to make sure he's not being watched. Okay, there's an incident of seeing flying creatures. So they're in that university. Okay, Miskatonic. 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 What kind of a name is that? Okay. Oh well. Monster Prince. Femme Fatale. They were very, very limited in Lovecraft. He didn't have virtually nothing in the way of a femme fatale. This is a typical comic book author is going to have some very luxurious looking female in it. I didn't like this at first, but then I began to like it. Hello, Millie. Okay, there we have the brain canisters. Some reason, so we've got the empty head. Some reason they chopped off the head and the hands. They do beautiful work, don't they, Wilmarth? Now give me the gun. No. Yeah, it's not my favourite sort of artwork, but it's not bad.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd say pretty standard mainstream art and writing for that matter.
Okay, he's dreaming about the undersea kingdom.
Yeah, we've seen that before.
Whisper in the Darkness Part 2. Looks like they've got a few bodies hanging around. There are symbols written in blood. Okay, ran into some mobsters, some type. Oh, well, it's another thing, Lovecraft seems to seldom have shootouts, from my recollection. Okay, right. This is one of the stories again. Yeah, right. So it's one of the Cthulhu stories where they find the gang celebrating in the swamp somewhere,
Yeah.
and the cops raid them. Okay, here he is mentioning Mountains of Madness, was it, in Antarctica?
That's right. Yes, that's right.
Uh, Lovecraft seemed to have said something about having a lot of drawing on his dreams for his storylines. Okay, New England. Anne of the Green Gables. They got the covered bridge.
Hmm.
Got me wondering there, why in the hell would you have a covered bridge? Well, people all going to stand on the bridge to keep out of the rain, I guess. Then have a car come barreling down, running them over.
Mhm.
Okay, they're on the long haul train, I suppose. Okay, he's got a monster friend, one of the Cthulhu type aliens. The Whisper in the Darkness, Part 3. It's all a bit too standard stock adventurous for Lovecraft. This is sort of very typical comic book characters.
Right. That's why I think there's been some liberty taken in the adaptation.
Yeah, well, this is a curious thing. If any of this stuff's based on Lovecraft themes, and certainly at some point the stories are mentioned, but a lot of this is looks like the more contemporary storytelling. It's not exactly Lovecraft.
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely an updating.
About the same time, something happened to my daughter. 2 weeks ago, I heard a noise outside. I couldn't tell you what it was. Then I heard a scream. It was my daughter, Frankie. I ran to the barn and could hear a commotion inside. I was too late. Something had shorn off the top of her head like snipping the bud off a rose. Above the barn, I heard wings beating. I'd been Ackley's neighbour for nigh on 25 years. I knew all about them things that was persecuting him. He weren't crazy. He was telling the truth. Folks that have gotten too near the mountains have disappeared. Their homes and farms burned. There's a mountain preacher that says it's the work of the devil. Okay, the aliens come out. Find some lost cabins beneath the house. Oh, that's certainly Lovecraft. Indians praying the monsters. Well, that's a Lovecraft tradition. I leave those deep-brained skeletons hanging around for a long time. The alien Mego. The Miskatonic Project's encounter with the alien Mego was only a partial success, but the success nonetheless. We read those dark Vermont hills of the dreads fungi from Yugoth, but each of us had to wonder, where had they flown to? So this is very sort of more basic Fausting. Post-World War II, of course, we had might have had the Fausting figure in the James Bond supervillains. Of course, that's very much Parsifal of the Grail as well. The character Cleansor was an equivalent sort of figure. Of course, most of these guys, early guys, would have been familiar with the Parsifal tale from the Wagnerian opera. Got a couple of Johnny Cash songs were probably inspired by Wagner. Riders in the Sky and Ring of Fire. Oh, that's right. I mentioned that to Rick. I was a bit curious about that. Where was the basis of the Ring of Fire? Seems to have connections to Elizabethan poetry. But the Ring of Fire originally appears in the legend of Siegfried and Brunhilde. Were left for Europe to build her reputation as a celebrity physic. She is in all the papers. She looks healthy. New England, after all, is a damp and frostbitten place. And me, I travel alone now in pursuit of the cult of Cthulhu. I find it difficult to work with the institution or other people. October the 31st, 1928. Was there any special date for this particular one?
You know, I certainly didn't plan for that. It's just, yeah, nothing more than a pure coincidence. I mean,
Don't know what it is. I hate Halloween. October in the build up to Halloween gets on my nerves. We didn't know what it was in Australia when I was a kid. But the first thing we would have seen about Halloween was on flipping American TV shows.
well, it's the second best Charlie Brown special.
Oh, okay. And then the dumb, supermarkets got an idea they can make money out of this by pushing it, and it works. Little kids have got to have the crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, we originally had another tradition, which was Guy Fawkes Night.
Okay.
So, the traditional was the big bonfire with a character of Guy Fawkes and lots of fireworks.
Remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason, and plot.
Of course, the Halloween type festival is not only amongst the Gaelic, it does occur in other parts of Europe as well. But it's like in England itself, the tradition wasn't quite as prominent. But the Puritans seem to have had something about Halloween because it was All Hallows Eve. So they used to believe that there were demons out on Halloween. From the Journal of Justin Sabat. Don't miss the great horror titles from Millennium. Lovecraft's Cthulhu, The Festival of Death, The Collector's Dracula, Asylum, Night Fears, Shock the Monkey, The Edge. Lovecraft's Cthulhu, Festival of Death.
There we go. Now we get into the Roy Thomas portion of our evening. We have covered quite an amount of Roy Thomas's work, one way or another, one medium or another, for what that's worth. He was a solid craftsman. Well, he's still alive, actually. Anyway, never mind. Got a little bit in the news recently for the whole thing with Deadpool and the Wolverine movie.
Okay, Ryder.
Hmm?
A writer.
Roy Thomas. Roy Thomas. Roy Thomas, I'm talking about. Yeah. Anyway.
So he doesn't draw.
As far as I'm aware, no, I don't think he's done anything other than write. At one point, he was editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics.
Oh, right, cool.
At one point. Maybe for like a week.
That's the sort of job that probably put you in your grave.
You know, back in the 70s, there was like a run of like 5 or 6 or 7 editors in chief that lasted like a week each, or 6 months or something. Yeah, no, before they got one that stuck around for a significant amount of time.
I just need somebody like Donald Trump, I bet. There was some video. They claim Trump sort of put it on, which has got a picture of him with a crown flying a jet, dropping poop all over the was it the No King's Day protest.
Hmm.
And yeah, if he sort of tweeted that on or whatever, it's really not a smart move.
Hmm.
He's seems to be losing it a bit. I don't know. What's he got left to restore his public image? Invade Russia.
Hmm. As I keep saying, he's not the problem. He's the symptom. He'll go away eventually. And everybody gets the idea, well, finally, we can get back to normal. No, that's not going to be happening.
Normal's the past, man.
No.
Look at the public; they ain't normal anymore.
Yeah, this is permanent. He will go away eventually, but things aren't going to get better because of that. It's this we focus too much on him. He's not the issue. When he goes away, there's still going to be quite a lot of problems.
Yeah. Well, I sort of theorise a bit like going a bit with Spengler's sort of ideas that this is really we're watching the end of democracy in the West,
Hmm.
and it's the public. It's the changes in culture.
Hmm.
Uh, I theorise that really, you went from the originally the nobility, you had the aristocracy and you had a warrior class, like in Japan. You had a timocracy in Japan, say, which was a bit similar to Europe and the barons. And that was, you could probably imagine Kenneth Smith saying that these cultures, whether you liked them or not, reflected the higher virtues, self-sacrifice, heroism, all that sort of daring do sort of stuff, spirituality, the knights going on quest and all that sort of stuff. And when capitalism started, or mercantilism started to arise in Western history, you had an oligarchy. You had places like Venice, which were ruled in part by wealthy but not really noble families, but they're as powerful as noble families. You had the Dutch Republic, which was really an oligarchy. And more or less the capitalists or merchants combined with the crown to produce what's an oligarchy. And because these people were commoners, they didn't have the protections that nobles had. And they wanted to make sure that they got the protections in law that the nobles had. And because they established rights for the common man, that's trickled down even to the poor class. So they were, even their rights were taken semi-seriously. And hence the democracy expanded. More or less the elect expanded to common people. But as Kenneth Smith would say about common people, along with the Greek philosophers, there's a problem with them. They're okay when they listen to a good oligarch like Pericles, and they will agree with the somebody with his sort of profound sensibilities. But when they lose that, and Pericles, like in Athens, gets replaced by idiots, then it's the last act for democracy. And people realise, well, we can use our vote to advantage, and every little cause in your society is out for power, advantage, and money, which means you end up needing the one tyrant to keep it all together. Because the trouble with one tyrant is sometimes they're good, like Augustus Caesar, but then you get the other type of tyrant, the lunatic. It's not quite up to the heavy pressures of what's involved. I'd sort of give Trump a few points. It's amazing to see somebody who can handle that sort of pressure, but starting to look like his delusions of godhood are getting to him. And you can see in that cartoon that was put out, that was Trump's thing. I saw it years ago. He's a boy from Queens who didn't quite make it in formal American society of the elite. His mannerisms, the elite of America don't have the most refined mannerisms around. They're nothing compared to the Europeans, for example, but there is some type of crass refinement there, which Trump couldn't quite make. And because they rejected him, he's spent his life filled with revenge that I'm going to show you guys. And well, in a way, he did. And that video that was put out, that's all Trump. That's what he's about. I'm showing you guys that I'm on top of you. You laughed at me years ago, put me down, hurt my ego. Well, here I am. Yeah, I can't entirely blame Trump completely to be in that situation with the temptation of power. It's pretty easy to become a crackpot. There'd be a lot of people who would do a lot worse than him, and there'd be the rare individual that could do a lot better. Oh, well, Miskatonic University, Arkham, Massachusetts, was founded in the 18th century and named for the meandering river which flows near the quiet New England town. I'll have to look that up now, Miskatonic. Yes. Tonic. Miskatonic University is a fictional university located in Arkham, named after the Miskatonic River, which flows through also. Oh, there's a Miskatonic books, demonology, grimoires, the Miskatonic Institute of Horror Studies. Okay, you can get a doctorate in crack these days. Well, wait. Surely they can just leave it to normal fans who do it for free. Someone really has to curtail academia. They're invading every part of culture, and they think, they've become the high priests of culture. One day, you'll be trying to do your interpretation of a science fiction story, and the door will be beaten down by the academic inquisition. I think that's already happening now, isn't it? I think they should have just stuck to the 7 liberal arts, if you ask me, or maybe technology. I'm not too sure about that. Notable alumni and contributors. Right, founded in 2010. Headquarters London, United Kingdom, which is still a place where fashionable Americans go. Kier-La Janisse, founder and author of House of Psychotic Women. Rebecca McKendry, filmmaker and horror scholar. Kim Newman, novelist and film critic. Stephen Frower, obviously a beta male, author and expert on European cult cinema. Established in 2010 by Canadian writer and programmer Kier-La Janisse. Born 1972, okay. Well, I always wondered how the mad astrologer priests of ancient Sumerian Egypt made it. I think this is how they started off. Is a place with an almost religious reverence for knowledge. Its library contains many rare, even obscure volumes, and its museum accommodates many priceless antiquities. One of these being a Cthulhu statue that comes to life, giving the place a night at the museum. Okay, it gives them the classic grimoire. A nice little illustration there. Sort of fairly okay work, I suppose. The Lonely Ship on the Sea. That's the cartoon figure I remember in the men's sophisticates that I looked through when I was about 12 years old or something. Common cartoon meme was the sailor on an island. You have this little island sticking out of the ocean with a single palm tree. And you got any background in that, David? It seems to be, the sort of Robinson Crusoe figure almost, and it probably reflects the atomization of modern society.
Hmm.
Uh, Right. So got the mad crowds again going for the festival. This is the festival story. The cowed celebrants mounted the demon creatures. So well, that's a bit weird. I'll have to look that story again and see if that's an original Lovecraft element. And they're tying this in with Pictor's model, or Pickman's model. So these underground sort of gargoyle type creatures.
Mhm.
Okay, now we've got a new superhero. Guy that's taken some sort of a potion, which means he can never die, but he can be torn to pieces. So he's become a bit like a god of classic legend. You know, there were a few gods that were torn to pieces, I think, or heroic, godlike beings. Herbert West, Reanimator. Okay, he's trying to sell the world a new superhero here, is he?
Hmm.
I remember a comic book character when I was a kid, which was an Egyptian mummy. The advantage is he couldn't die, but I remember, you know, he had certain disadvantages, like, you know, he saw a train, he was out in the rain, and he saw a train going across the plain. He thought, oh, I could try and hop on it, but I'd probably just rip my arm off in the process. I don't know if you recall that comic book character, do you?
No.
The test Miskatonic Project Confidential Report, The Testimony of Randolph Carter, Part 1. Well, comic book character base 1970s, based on mummy, Egyptian mummy superhero. You're thinking of Nakantu, the living mummy, a Marvel Comics character introduced in the 1970s who blends ancient Egyptian lore with superhero storytelling. He debuted in Supernatural Thrillers #5 in August 1973. Okay, cool. So just some mindless AI like what's the name of this one again? Copilot. It's quite handy for a lot of things. It's a comic I'll have to look up. Supernatural Thrillers. Word count's too high. Uh, The weird thing is in all the basic utilities, the spell checker is no better than what was there 30 years ago when they're trying to sell to everybody, get online, play around with our systems. They're giving lots of free stuff away, which in the end, are sort of Indian givers. So they want to take it back, although they don't want to give you a better basic facility anymore. You have to pay for it. I assume that you're well versed in all this, David, aren't you?
Yeah, sure.
That's right, Natalia. Has might have landed a teacher's job, which hopefully she can retain because it's what she wants to get a permanent residency.
Hmm.
So hopefully that works out. She's starting in a couple of weeks.
Hmm. All right. Good.
Use Wikipedia, I guess that'll do. Okay. Chat.
Remember Kenneth Smith's Nietzsche series? We still, I still haven't sent you the rest of it. You got a little bit of the ways through.
Right, that was the YouTubes.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
well,
think
yeah.
part of the
Bianca.
problem is my tiny brain can only absorb so much philosophy. I think I'm reaching. I'm quite willing to, listen to more YouTubes from Kenneth Smith,
Mhm.
but absorbing all the stuffs. I have learned a few things.
Yeah.
To get back to the comic.
If you're interested, maybe I'll pull out some Living Mummy. If you're interested.
Oh, well, it certainly can have a look.
Mhm.
Oh my God, looks like a social justice warrior. You got that cartoon image there, have you? Still got the correct screen, haven't we? Okay, the gang's all here. What do you reckon? Lovecraft's Festival Part 2. So a whole host of characters who didn't listen to Nietzsche. Just remember, when you go looking in the abyss is looking into you. Okay, they put the bad guy's head in a bottle, trying to get some information out of him. Okay, she's been visited by a sea woman. Welcome, sister of the air. I'm Tfro Ragan Tulu of the Deep Lords. Herbert West, the new superhero which didn't make it. Soon mighty Dagon will again walk the earth, first to herald the return of the old ones. Yea, even Lord Cthulhu stirs in sunken Riley. Oh, they've done the submarine, sort of a bit Lovecraftian, I suppose. It's sort of a classic look. If only sea monkeys look like that. You ever seen the, I think it's still around, the old sea monkeys thing. And the illustrations had these sort of humanoid sort of characters, so they fooled all the little kids. They'll just see shrimp that people normally bred to feed their tanks fish with. Okay, so the air breathers have got on some special thing which filters the air out of the water. And they've tied in the U-boat commander story. He's found the sunken city and is rebuilding Dagon's world. And here we go, James Bond. Come down the submarine, got the gang of Aquamen. Well, they're going to do a movie of this, typical of a James Bond style film. And Dagon arises, but he needs a sacrifice. Right, so the sea maiden got a bit sick, decided she didn't like Dagon that much. They all make it back to the Institute. As it's an interesting thing. This is Lovecraft didn't seem to ever create a series of institutional characters. He would just have one character who's meeting the lonely professor or something like that. He's not going to have the League of Superheroes or the Fantastic Four. doing stuff. What is this? A happy ending? How many happy endings were in Lovecraft? Millie, I love the season. You don't like candy. How can you not like candy? What's this guy? A mild troll of some type, is he?
Hmm.
I grabbed a couple of small cheesecake cups that were on special at the supermarket last night. I sort of enjoyed them, but
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, but generally I'd avoid sugar and carbohydrates. Like last time I might go out and eat some pasta. It's like the 5 minute noodles I've got in the cupboard have been there for ages. It's very seldom. I love them, but very seldom I have any.
Right. Right.
Yeah, actually, I've noticed a vast improvement by doubling the dosage of zinc. I had a zinc deficiency. I went by with one pill for a while and dropped it down to half a pill a day, and that wasn't enough. I got the lesions at the side of the mouth showing up, which is a typical sign. When took one pill for a while, I thought, what the hell? I might as well double it. Yeah, and I noticed by doubling the zinc that something's improved.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. The Cantu, the Living Mummy, is a fictional character appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. The character's first run was from 1973 to 1975, based on the popular undead mummy trope of horror fiction. Now, the comics themselves, I think, were in black and white. Although, yeah, of course, the cover was colour. Born 3,000 years ago, Nakantu was son of Tukum Chombai, chief of a North African tribe called the Swallory. Okay. Okay. Okay, well, this is very typical. So he's a Nubian type character of some type. He's the Egyptians raid his village for slaves because they went down to Nubia with small armies to mine for gold. So he's a black mummy.
You wanna do Living Mummy sometime? Here, check out the chat link there, and then download, and then share if you would like. Most recent link I've posted.
Okay, supernatural thrillers. Living Mummy. All right. Oh, this one's in color.
Do you, well, want to check it out? Sure.
Oh, right. Yeah. 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 So full of that. Okay. Go back to the start. Slider. Oh. Yeah. This is my era of comics, and I'm fond. Like later stuff, it just starts to get pretentious. It towers above the shifting sands like a terror out of time. Its centuries-old form is stiffens laden with the dust of ages. Yet it moves, its chest rises and falls. Within the rhythm of breathing, there can be no doubt it lives. Okay, this is an early comic I haven't seen. Maybe it was in color. Maybe I did see a color issue, just didn't remember it.
So if you want, we could do a whole week. Yay? Nay? One of those fifth Fridays of the month could be devoted to Living Mummy.
Well, these would have been comics. Generally, my father bought the comics. So he just saw something at the newsstand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not absolutely sure this is a thing I've seen, but it could be. I just remember one issue, he's wandering along in the rain, thinking about jumping a train to get out of the rain.
Yeah, that happens to me, where I know something is there, but I just don't know where it is. And so you have to go through the whole series if you really want to find it, and then eventually you'll come across it. Yeah, that happens to me a lot.
Okay, let's see how many issues were there. Okay, in 2015, Den of Geek ranks Nicantu, the Living Mummy, on a listing of Marvel Comics monster number 18 on the listing. So I was giving it quite a high. Maybe this was just a black friendly period. What was the name of that movie hero? The black guy, the Panther or something like that, which all the Negroes were hopping over. I actually went and saw it. I thought it was an okay film, oddly enough. A lot of the Marvel stuff just bores me to tears. Black Panther, that was it, wasn't it?
Mm.
Came out as a movie, what, 2015 or 2018 or something like that.
Mm.
So it's from some secret African kingdom that was super sophisticated. Got this that friend who lives in Jordan is always complaining about the Western world exploiting the rest of the world, and I say to her, look, these countries do it to themselves. Uh, Fact is that the, these nations are rather artificial, and at best, government personalities have tribal loyalties. They're still very much stuck with their extended families and tribal loyalties, and they're going to sell out their country for a dime. That's a problem, and you'd need a government that was honest, that wouldn't sell out their countries for a dime. And that's it. That's where the trouble starts. You know, these Western powers that be uh, can seldom use military force. They could use a little bit of military force, but they need support within the nations to do their stuff. But the mentality of most people is that the powerful one is totally to blame. The oppressor has all the power, but the oppressed have the power to say no. But most often they don't do it. Like I was watching a film last night, very politically correct. Uh, why do I keep on forgetting the name of it?
Oh my God.
Good Fortune. So it's got Keanu Reeves in it as an alien. It's full of a multiracial gang where the white guys, they're either angels or Donald Trump. And I watched it. It wasn't too bad. I could sort of mildly like it, actually. So some of these movies I go to, I just wish I hadn't seen. This one had something to say, but of course they were saying the oppressed are all going to rise up one day and have a revolution and overthrow America. It's an M rating because a bit of swearing in it. And it's not going to happen. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter which side of politics it's going to come from. There won't be a French Revolution in America because the American public just hasn't got the wherewithal for that. They might have a few riots, but the powers that be will rule. Oh, well, I recommend Good Fortune. It's a mildly interesting film.
Will do. The rest of the living mummy. Some week.
This the only serial character.
got a
Okay, Nicantia, the Living Mummy, wasn't the only mummy-themed comic character. Several others have appeared. Nicantia remains the most prominent. Were some other mummy characters, but I don't know if they go back to the 70s. Anarchus. Nuppy looks very modern. Scratch that one. Asher Cobb.
mm, two 2 week Rick vacation, most likely, as at an end.
He's probably manning the barricades by this point, isn't he? Down in Portland.
Hmm.
Asher Cobb's some sort of a modern, more modern figure as well, by the looks of things. Ayton, DC Comics. Member of Creature Commandos, a team of supernatural soldiers. Doesn't sound like it. Chuck D. Head, a comedic mummy character created by a mad Zionist. Another one. Also a DC Comics. Okay, Count Elam Mistakio. There's an ancient Egyptian mummy who has been preserved for thousands of years and brought back to life through the marvels of modern science in the 19th century. Despite his ancient origins, Count Elam Mistakio possesses a sharp intellect and a wry sense of humour. So this is from a 19th century novel created by Edgar Allan Poe. So it doesn't look like they've done a comic of it, have they? It looks like he's got a place in. There's a mention of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, so I don't know about that one. Did he have a place in that somewhere?
What do you mean?
Accounts. Uh,
We, if truth be told, we didn't do all of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I mean, we started in the middle and got to the end. I always thought maybe we could go back and pick up the ones we missed, but I got the impression you were pretty much finished and done with League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. You got your fill
yeah,
with
yeah.
what we had done. I'm pretty sure you didn't even read the last five.
Okay, so he's an Edgar Allan Poe character, so yeah, quite likely he's shown up in somewhere in the comics. But it doesn't look like it's the one I'm looking for.
My memory was it was yeah, he was one of the ones from the earlier team, but we didn't cover that particular issue. We started in the middle and got to the end. But yeah, I do recall that. That's I mean it's just a single shot of an earlier team.
I was using Copilot on something this morning, and Copilot mistook uh, 40,000 yen for 40 million yen.
Hmm.
So you've got to watch out for these things.
Yeah, that'll happen. Probably shouldn't get onto the whole thing about large language models and how they work.
Now, this one comes up with Nicantu again, the living mummy.
Yeah. I'll put it on one of the fifth Fridays that eventually happen.
Oh, yes, certainly worth having a look, I reckon.
I think there's four a year, I think. Four fifth Fridays a year. Well, January probably will be our Hellblazer catch up. Probably.
Yeah, I'll have to move along with that.
Yeah, it's an easier read if you keep up to at least an issue here and there without having to do 12 chapters in 1 week like we did with Watchmen.
Beat the Mad Mummy is another more recent sort of a character. Let's see, Supernatural Thrillers series of comics. So I'll see what that's got in it there. Comics. Supernatural Thrillers, Volume 1, 1972 to 1975.
Well, put it on the schedule whenever there's an opening.
And quite a few mummies. Okay, the mummy story starts with number 5. Okay. And it looks like the mummy is starring for the rest of the Supernatural Thrillers. So there are about 15 issues altogether. It. Well, this one looks like Swamp Thing. I don't know. What do you reckon?
Mhm.
From the world famous Chiller by Theodore Sturgeon, famous name.
Yeah, yeah.
The Invisible Man. The Valley of the Worm. Some Conan type character.
That Gil Kane.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You ever thought of becoming Mr. Hyde, Dave? I was watching a YouTube video on it, and of course, in the movies, Jekyll's an innocent. He stumbled across Hyde. Of course, they point out in the book that Jekyll wanted to be Hyde. He was tired of being Dr. Jekyll.
Hmm.
And this is a story of a lot of people who take speed.
Hmm.
You know, I didn't realise that they prescribe speed for attention deficiency, so you can more or less get legal speed. But I think there's a price to be paid. I mean, it diminishes uh, inhibitions, which can be dangerous, because you might get that idea to bury an axe in somebody's head, but usually you counter that with a veto. Because if the veto switch is diminished, okay. The headless horseman rides again. Okay, the living mummy, back from the tomb. He who stalks two worlds. The living mummy strikes.
Going through all of Conan. There's no reason we can't do Living Mummy.
Okay, I guess that's good enough for this session, David. So is Rick planning to be there on the?
As far as I know. I mean, occasionally what happens is he just gets, well, as he puts it, a sleepless night, where he just has insomnia, doesn't have any sleep, and he can't do the meeting. That's what happens sometimes.
Oh
Other
well,
times,
drink a glass of wine, they say.
yeah. Other times it's something business related. He's got a deadline or something, or maybe there's some construction noise, like there's carpenters
It's
or
on his nerves, like
that
you.
happens. Yeah. But if none of that happens, then I guess we'll have a meeting. I guess. It's just I'd rather he, you know, give a little bit more advance notice than, an hour before. But since, all this is free and no one's getting paid for anything, you, it's nothing to complain about. So it's annoying for you because you have to get up there early. But
Well, I don't work, so
yeah, right. Yeah,
it's not too tragic.
yeah, right.
I'll
Right.
see how I'll send your picture to Matali. She's got this app that does racial profiling.
Uh,
So what did I get? No, that's right. It's on Facebook.
yeah. On one hand, I'm kind of glad I never actually had children. My sister didn't either. My grandfather, I think, was a little annoyed that came to the understanding that this line was going to die.
Your line has gone the way of the Lovecrafts, has it?
In theory, it's not too late. In theory. The science is that the DNA mutates with age.
Oh, there we go. Ethnicity estimate. British, Irish, 45%. French, German, 25%. Scandinavian, 15%. Eastern European, 10%. Italian Peninsula, 5%. Now, if I turn my head a bit, it'll probably come up with something different. So it's, doing it from a picture.
Right. You can't take that too seriously. I mean, what you'd have to do is get the actual DNA analysis, which I've done.
That can vary a bit according to how they sort of create their categories, of course.
Yeah, that's right. They're constantly updating it, and it changes quite wildly, as it has. That's ancestry.com. You just pay and get your DNA analyzed. They give you what the estimate is.
Okay, Dave, thank you very much. And let's see if Rick makes it.
Yeah.
Anything interesting on the movies tomorrow?
The movies, I don't think anything that would particularly be of interest to you.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.
Okay.
Bye.